welcome everyone to BC's Offbeat Bass Gear. I am BC, and today we're going to be answering a question that I was probably the only one bored enough to ask. But maybe you'll find it interesting, and at least we'll have an answer for it at the end. For those of you who don't want to stay to the bitter end and just want to kind of get a sense of how this whole demo went, if you look over my right shoulder here, the little Grim Reaper figure might give you an idea of how everything turned out. For the rest of you who are along for the ride, I thank you, and let's dive right into it. Today we're going to be looking at the Rat Effects Rat Tail Distortion Rig. Yes, essentially what this is one of the lesser inspired designs from the good people at ProCo Sound. The ProCo Rat pedal is something that I've kind of had a weird relationship with. One of the first guitar players I ever really had a chance to play with and jam with. His entire rig consisted of a ProCo Rat, a wah-wah pedal, and an old PV Musician Mark III bass head with a built-in phaser. And he was an awesome player. He got a great tone with it. He had one of the original mid-'80s Rats. And since then, I've tried the bass Rat for my guitar rig. I even had the classic ProCo Rat. And I just could not get a really good sound out of it. So when the Rat Tail was introduced, I thought it was kind of a neat idea. I know many of you are probably not familiar with the Rat Tail, so I'll take you through the basics of it. Essentially what it is it's literally a guitar cable, hence the term Rat Tail. And what they did with this cable is in the input going into the amp, they essentially put in the clipping circuit from the ProCo Rat pedal. They powered it with two tiny watch batteries, I think they're 377s. And then from the input jack, they ran sort of connector cables up through the body of the cable itself, and it came out on the other end, the output jack from the guitar. They added this toggle knob that allows you to switch between clean, and then there's two sort of ProCo inspired presets. Now, it was a little bit difficult to kind of establish what those two presets consisted of. What I used for a bass line, I used this Joyo sort of ProCo Rat knockoff that was on a Black Friday sale on the Amazons for 30 bucks. And I used that to kind of establish the reference tone. And it appears to be essentially what you have is you have a saturation rate of about 25% with the first preset and about 75% at the second. And I thought this was kind of a neat idea because I'm a big less is more kind of guy. One of the advantages of being a bass player, I think, is you don't need a ton of gear. My whole gigging career, my rig consisted of a volume pedal and a switch to knock the chorus that was built into my bass head on and off, and a tuner on, a tuner out. That was it. And I liked the idea, and I think this was the idea that ProCo Rat had, people who are kind of starving for real estate on their pedal board and couldn't justify making space to have an actual Rat pedal. Well, they could go with the tail. I think that was the idea. It didn't quite catch on. I bought one of these when they were being blown out during COVID. So I'm going to take you through this with three different basses that I think run the spectrum of what most bass players probably have in their arsenal. We'll do fingerstyle, we'll do pick, we'll do clean, plus the two presets, and then I'll let you know my thoughts. I think the first thing we'll kick off with, this is the lower end Indonesian line of the Michael Anthony signature bass from Yamaha. And it has P-J pickups, they're passive, but I think this is pretty close to what a lot of bass players have. I will play it clean first, give you a reference tone, then we'll go from there. Let me take it up a bit. Tone control is wide open. Okay, now let's engage the first of the two presets in the ProCo Rat Tail. don't know if you caught that, but there actually was a noticeable drop in volume going into the first preset. Let's take it into the second. Now the level on this one is actually pretty close to the bass when it's clean. So that's sort of curious. The second one kind of restores the level. The lower preset actually dropped the output by quite a bit. And let's mute it. And once again, let's take it back to clean, where we all started. Okay, so that's what you would expect to get out of this with a standard kind of P bass, P and J pickups, both wide open. For those of you who are playing more of sort of a Music Man type rig, I have here my Sandberg. It is a Sandberg Rammstein signature, German made. I will do a video on this at some point. I think Sandberg basses are kind of overlooked, which is a shame. They make great instruments. This is configured just like a lot of the Stingrays. We have essentially a bass and treble, and I've got those set flat, and then I've got the sort of balance also set in the middle. And we have a master volume on this. Let me start this out clean, and then we'll go through it again. Do a quick hit with a pick. Now let's take it into the first preset that I said is about maybe 25% full saturation based on that clone rat pedal. Hit it with a pick. Muted. And full saturation. Muted. And once again, back to clean, just to bring it back to where we all started. Okay, we're going to do one more bass. I'll give some closing thoughts and let you know what I sort of felt about this. And then we will close this out, and we'll go from there. So this is going to be, this is my Kawai 5-string, another one of my COVID purchases. Really neat design. This, I did a video on this about a year ago. It has a string through B and E string that I think really gets rid of a lot of the floppiness. Otherwise, it's essentially an active J-bass. You've got two active Kawai pickups here, and you've got your pickup blend, and your bass boost, your treble boost. I've set everything flat, and the master volume. We'll do this clean, and then we'll play this over into settings 1 and 2. Okay, setting 1. setting 2. Muted. Close it out with fingerstyle. Okay, so final thoughts on the ProCo Rat Tail. I think it's a really neat idea. I think it's great the ProCo sound did something a little bit different. I think it's the classic case of we have a solution to a problem that nobody really has. And I think that's the issue. This was not a cheap piece of gear. When it was at sort of its retail, these things are about $70 in this 25-foot length, which is basically the same price as a ProCo Rat pedal. And I think that's sort of the problem. You know, if you listen to the presets, with the first presetting, it definitely dropped your output, so you had to kind of compensate for that a little bit. And you really can't do much to change the sound other than sitting there and toggling everything through the settings in your amp. And if you're committed to doing that to try to get a sound that you really like, you know, you might as well spend 30 or 40 bucks and get a decent Rat clone and just, you know, tweak that there. A lot more controllable, a lot more shapeable, and then you can make it however you want it. Like I said, I think it's a really neat idea. Kudos for trying to do something new, but in this instance, I really don't think this was any better than just going with a pedal. The convenience of having the 2 presets is its greatest weakness. You have to like those 2 presets, and as you can tell from here, they're really kind of excessively sort of buzzy and farty, and they lack a lot of distinction. They do work better, I think, with the active pickups because you can adjust the output level a little bit more, and the drop-off isn't quite as pronounced. But once again, you know, you're left with something you're going to have to play with, and if you're going to do that, you're better off just having the pedal. That'll let you configure the whole thing. I hope you guys found this useful. Thank you very much for staying to the very bitter end. I appreciate it. If you have thoughts or suggestions about other things, please put them in the comments, and I'll put sort of a rundown of the gear I used for this demo up in the description. Until then, have a good day and have a good week. I'm BC, and this has been BC's Offbeat Bass Gear. Thanks very much. Have a good day.